Hello, Henry here. Welcome back to another round of Void War. This time around we are doing something different. Well, first of all, we will not go for another boarding crew. Second of all, I won't show you every single gameplay. Rather, I will tell you the story of the journey of the ship called Sunhammer, an Imperial Cruiser variant B, and its crew on the highest difficulty, Torment 5. So let me introduce you to Brunda the Witch, her two crewmates, Caius the Imperial Acolyte and Lucor the Imperial Magister, as well as the ship itself. The Sunhammer is a typical Imperial Cruiser B variant with a Retributor 3, a long-loading 3-shot cannon and an energy lance, Brunda's favorite, a pre-charged weapon which ignores shields and can punch holes into the enemy ship. Paired with a psychic death bolt, no opposing room is safe from her reach. The opener should be used every single fight, crippling the enemy ship from the start. A corrupt cruiser was the first obstacle in the way to the core, which had no chance against the mighty Sunhammer. As with every good Imperial crew, they pledged their allegiance to the Imperial cult at the first opportunity. Dark times doesn't mean ignoring one's oath. 2 stops later, our third enemy managed to score the first hit to our ship, but was otherwise no real challenge. To not get hit again, the accumulated scrap was used to upgrade the shields. Now for a while nothing should be able to hit us. And that was true for exactly 3 more enemies until we were hit again. Luckily nothing major was damaged. One thing the shields can't protect us against are enemy boarding crews. On the next stop we got boarded by low health 4 thralls, 2 of which were instantly killed by Brunda's death bolt, the rest was quickly eliminated. A few enemies later, the first stop at a weapons merchant's was possible. Here we bought an energy beam level 2, the idea being to knock out the enemy shields with the energy lance and retributor and then cut through the enemy ship. But for now the ship had not enough energy for all weapons, so a switch between the lance and the beam was necessary. Nevertheless, the plan worked like a charm, and 2 enemies later enough scrap was collected to upgrade the power generator. With this setup it was smooth sailing through the rest of the sector and the next one. On the way, a trader sold us a spectral drive, which gave us the ability to also dodge spells flung at our ship. And it took from fight 6 to up to 16 corrupt cruiser until we took the next hit to our ship. Still no real challenge. Helping out the technical ship, we were given a servo husk as a new crew, giving us better engines. And rounding out our weapons loadout, we bought a fusillade, shrapnel shooter, another weapon to help take out enemy shields to give our laser beam an opening. With this installment also came upgrades to the weapon system and the engines. In the 4th sector, enemies finally got stronger and managed to get through our shields more often. More upgrades to the shields were necessary. One thing the crew did not account for were enemy blood knights. They have the ability to control enemy crew for a time. Well, we learned the hard way that this can be bad for us. Whilst being in a fight with the Arakeen frigate, the enemy blood knight took control of Brunda, and in her confusion she destroyed the ship's command seat. Luckily the fight was already done anyway, but this was a whole new attack angle that needed to be considered. So far direct battles were no problem anymore, a major risk were enemy boarding crews. As if the universe wanted to hammer that point home, we landed in a system and got boarded by 4 husks. The enemy was repelled, but some systems were damaged. The decision was made to jump out of the hazard zone first before repairing a few systems damages. Unfortunately, right after entering real space we got boarded again. To add insult to injury, we also jumped way too close to the sun and now had to deal with the enemy boarding crew and regular fire hazards. The crew took out all the enemies, but now repairs had to be done before leaving the system. As if the universe wasn't satisfied with our struggles, it showed us a new way to hurt us. An Imperial strikecraft showed us that missiles can ignore our shields and hit us where it hurts. Their quick-firing Shiv missile was a nuisance which cost us more hull integrity. After these encounters, the rest of the sector was a cakewalk and we jumped into Sector 5. Sometimes, instead of punishing you, the universe gives you a little help, and after finishing off an Arakeen frigate, in the leftovers we found a warp lance. Just like the energy lance, it comes with pre-charge, but it hits way harder. Instead of maybe hull breaching, we now would rip holes into the enemy ship. An even better fit for Brunda's death combo. Shoot an empty big room, get all the crew to come over to repair, and then shoot the death bolt to hit them all and possibly kill them. Just to show this in action, here is the next fight. What do you mean that's a nice combo, but why is Caius dead? Well, you remember that last Blood Knight action? This time the control of Brunda happened to just be around the cooldown of her death bolt ability. And just like that, the death bolt flew into the next room and finished off Caius while damaging our own systems. The universe giveth, the universe taketh. The enemies now got even better weapons, and hits to our hull were a regular occurrence as well. We were down to 50% hull integrity. Even better, they started to show up with shield charger modules, a system that whilst active will insta-charge your shield pips. So now hitting through shields was impossible for around 20 seconds, a very nasty combination. To counter that, we fully upgraded our shields to have 4 pips, and we also installed a siege bombard to keep it up pressure on the enemy whilst our weapons load. And don't worry about all the damage, surely nothing bad will happen with all these enemy weapons firing on us, for sure. Whilst helping out a colony to get into a facility guarded by the Blood Cult, we agreed to attack the orbital defense of the station, as boarding the station wasn't something we could pull off. Another surprise awaited us with an area keen scout shooting an iron shrapnel at us. One hit could take out a whole system and it could ignore shields. Would be a shame if they'd hit our weapon system and rendered our ship useless. Whilst dealing with that, you should remember that we were fighting a Blood Cult vessel, and when you know it, they had a Blood Knight on board. Well, you know the drill by now. Take over Brunda, use the Death Bolt and kill some crew. This time the victim was our service husk. After another hit to the iron shrapnel to our recently activated weapons, Brunda called the retreat, we fled the fight and left the colony to deal with the aftermath. Getting into Sector 6 and knowing a big fight was ahead, we took a quick stop at a crew merchant and hired 2 engineers to fill the open stations again. A few more fights and a bit of damage later, we arrived at the Necropolis barge, blocking the way. This thing was going to be a pain in the ass to handle. In the beginning it would hurl crew spells at us and summon enemies on our decks, whilst peppering us with all kinds of weapons fire. We had some dodge, but well, the game thought no dodge for you, and the enemy energy shield recharger wouldn't make it any easier as well. So hitting the enemy wasn't an option. Around 2 minutes in, the first enemy assault happened and could be repelled, but whilst dealing with them, their weapons fire and missile bombardment started to take a toll on us. The worst damage was the shield subsystem, which, it being down to 3 out of 8 power, we only had a single charge of shield guarding us. Not nearly enough to even hold off some single shots. Which, just a few minutes later, meant our ship was lost and the fight was over. A big enemy salvo took out more systems, and an enemy spawn in the shield room killed our crew and stopped all repair action. With all that happening, Brunda stood at the helm and waited for the inevitable death blow to the mighty Sunhammer. Well, this was the story of Brunda with her Sunhammer, a close try, stopped at the end by the big Necropolis. It was always going to be a tough fight, but pure weapons fire builds seem to be inferior to a boarding build. So let's see what next time brings if we do this, and I hope you like this, and I thank you for watching, and hopefully we will see each other in one of the next videos. Until then, see ya.